This episode is sponsored in part by our friends at Lumigo. If you've built anything from serverless, you know that if there's one thing that can be said universally about these applications, it's that it turns every outage into a murder mystery. Lumigo helps make sense of all of the various functions that wind up tying together to build applications. It offers one-click distributed tracing so you can effortlessly find and fix issues in your serverless and microservices environment. You've created more problems for yourself. Make one of them go away. To learn more, visit lumigo.io. Good morning, AWS, and welcome to the AWS Morning Brief. I'm cloud economist Corey Quinn, and you know how the rest of that sentence goes. Let's see what happened last week in AWS. Amazon EC2 adds new AMI property to flag outdated AMIs. This is huge. Eric Hammond, who is the first AWS community hero and someone I deeply admire, has published thousands of community AMIs over the past 15 years. It'll be great to see a lot of them stop showing up on searches in the console. Amazon EC2 now allows you to create crash-consistent AMIs from instances with multiple EBS volumes without rebooting instances. Look, this is a great capability to be sure, but couldn't they find a way to describe it without making EC2 sound like a rickety piece of crap? Amazon Polly launches a new German neural text-to-speech voice. It just occurred to me to wonder just how this would sound if you fed it English text. Announcing per-second billing for EC2 Windows Server and SQL Server instances. Ooh, per-core second licensing. AWS Copilot launches version 1.8 with improved support for load-balanced web services and VPCs. I tried building something with Copilot last week, and I can't shake the feeling that for a CLI tool, the developer ergonomics are completely wrong. Heads up, AWS news blog RSS feed change. AWS has to change its RSS feed because, and this is true, Google deprecated something. Migrate your workloads with the Graviton Challenge. They're right, it's impossible to eat just one Graviton 2 chip. I'm tickled that one of my tweets was included in their marketing video. New AWS Step Functions Workflow Studio, a low-code visual tool for building state machines. Incomprehensible step functions are now potentially comprehensible. This is a big deal. Exploring serverless patterns for Amazon DynamoDB. The server pattern for DynamoDB usually includes some evangelist without any context into your business vehemently insisting you should refactor everything to be serverless instead. Integrate Rosa with AWS Code Commit. Two tools you probably shouldn't be using if you have other viable options now work together. Best practices for converting a single AZ Amazon RDS instance to a multi-AZ instance. So many of these migration guidances should really start with step 1, go back in time and make better decisions because the rest of this is gonna suck. 7 pitfalls to avoid when building a CCOE or Cloud Center of Excellence. Number 8, calling it a Cloud Center of Excellence. As soon as you have a team that's viewed as where all the smart people go, you have serious internal challenges with staff morale. This episode is sponsored in part by Salesforce. Salesforce invites you to Salesforce and AWS What's Ahead for Architects, Admins, and Developers on June 24th at 10 a.m. Pacific Time. It's a virtual event where you'll get a first look at the latest innovations from the Salesforce and AWS partnership and have an opportunity to have your questions answered. Plus, you'll get to enjoy an exclusive performance from Grammy Award-winning artist The Roots. I think they're talking about a band, not people with super user access to a system. Registration is free at salesforce.com/what'sahead. Digital transformation, hype or a strategic necessity? Well, what else are you going to call it? Waking up to the business necessity you should have been tracking a decade ago? You're not going to sell a whole lot of management consulting if you do that. The Great Migration, Chime's move to AWS. At no point in this article did they feel the need to clarify that they're not talking about Amazon Chime, which says a lot for its place in the market. It's kind of a shame, really. There are things I really like about Amazon Chime as a messaging product. Case study, handling 1 million concurrent players with ease on AWS. I guess one of the first things that Adam Selipsky is doing now that he's back at AWS is starting to call them players instead of customers. Create a Jira issue using an AWS config remediation action. After all, if there isn't a Jira ticket for something, not only is it not real, but you'll also receive 0 credit for working on it. Managing the multi-cloud environment using AWS organizations and AWS Control Tower. It sure would have been great to have a lot of this guidance before many of us walked through the one-way door of setting up our account structures. AWS enables the U.S. federal government's move to IPv6. This is a terrific partnership story because IPv6 has been an afterthought for both the federal government and AWS for well over a decade. Coming soon, AWS launching new region in Spain by mid-2022. The rain in Spain will soon fall mainly on the distributed control plane and be billed by the liter humidity second. And finally, encrypt global data client-side with AWS KMS multi-region keys. While it's not quite a global key, this does make an awful lot of workloads way easier. The economic win here is not having to decrypt/re-encrypt data as it transitions between regions. And that's what happened last week in AWS. I'm cloud economist Corey Quinn. Continue to make good choices.
This has been a Humble Pod production. Stay humble.